Is it worth having multiple Tesla Powerwalls? That's the question that we're going to answer in today's video, because behind me are 3 Tesla Powerwalls that our customer has. We've just added 2 to his existing system, and he's created some clever software to leverage the intelligent batteries behind me to reduce his carbon footprint and increase his return on investment. So make sure you like and subscribe, and let's get into it. So here are our 2 brand new Tesla Powerwall 2s. They're 13.5 kilowatt hours of capacity each, and each one has a 5 kilowatt charge and discharge rate. So when you've got one Powerwall, you've got a maximum charge and discharge of 5 kilowatts. If you add a second one, you can go up to 10 kilowatts charge and discharge. If you add a third, you can go up to 15 kilowatts of charge and discharge, which means that if you've got 15 kilowatts of power running in the house for doing various things, all of it can be covered by these 3 Powerwalls, and that's why we're installing the extra capacity today for our customer. We're going to get them unboxed, take a look. So this is a wall bracket, which we're not actually going to need in this case because we're using a stacking kit. We're stacking 3 of them, one on top of each other, to minimise the amount of space that's taken up. So this can go in the bin. So the setup here is we've got a 6 kilowatt solar edge inverter for the PV on the roof. That is feeding into this Tesla backup gateway. And then at the moment, 1 circuit in the backup gateway that feeds the Tesla Powerwall. However, we've got to add 2 more circuits. And in the gateway here, you can see they've used these MCG dual module breakers, which are taking up a bit too much space. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace them with these Proteus ones. They're double pole as required, type A, but they take up only 1 module. So we're going to have 3 32 amp breakers, 1 for each of the Powerwalls, and then a 40 for the solar PV. We're going to get the cover off here and see what it looks like inside. I got a feeling it's going to be a bit like spaghetti, so we might need to do a little bit of organising and tidying up. So you might know that on the channel we like to do neat or not neat on consumer units. Well, I'm going to do neat or not neat on this Tesla Powerwall gateway, because just to let you know, we didn't do this original install. The customers called us here to just do the add-ons, but somebody else did the original. So let's see if it's neat or not neat. Okay, so no surprises, it's a little bit chaotic. A few comments about this. The way they've done these breakers, slightly odd. So they've kind of reversed the polarity. And now that is actually okay because they're not written line and neutral on them, so you can do that. I understand why they've done it, but it's just a little bit of a funny way of doing it, because now you've got neutral and live, and then live and neutral, so they don't match. Essentially, what's in here is a main isolator and a main fuse, surge protection device, and then 2 double pole RCBOs. This 40 amp is for the solar. I'm not quite sure why they've put it on a 40, because it's a 6 kilowatt inverter, so it could have been on a 32, but it is what it is. And then this 32 is for the Tesla Powerwall that we've got here. Inside here, you've got non-backup and you've got backup, right? So this is the home backup side. And essentially the main tails for the property from the meter, they feed into here through the main switch, and then it splits between backup and non-backup. Any heavily loaded circuits like EV chargers, induction hobs, things like that, you would normally put on the non-backup side if they're more than 5 kilowatts. And the reason for that is that if you've got a load that's pulling more than 5 kilowatts and the power goes out from the grid, the Tesla system's going to freak out because you're pulling more than its maximum discharge rate, and it's just going to shut down. In this case, because we're adding 2 more Powerwalls, now we're going to have a maximum of 15 kilowatt charge and discharge, which means that actually we're fine to put whatever we want on the backup side. And I think in this case, pretty much everything is on the backup, other than obviously the solar, which is in here. Tesla speaks to the solar system, and it will keep the inverter running in the event of grid outage, which means on a sunny day like this, if you lose power from the grid, you don't lose your grid-tied inverter. It actually keeps running, keeps generating solar, which is one of the things that we love about the Tesla Powerwall system. But what we got to do is rip these breakers out, make a little bit of space, put our new breakers in, and then wire the new isolators and everything for the new Powerwalls from here. So we've got permission from the customer to turn the power off. We've turned everything off. Now we just want to check that it's all definitely off before we start working. So we use this proving unit to test our tester. So that shows that the tester's working. Basically, we've isolated it in the meter box at the main switch fuse there. But we just check all combinations. So line to neutral, line to earth, and neutral to earth. So that's good. And then we test our tester again to make sure it's not broken in between.
Right, I've ripped out these old MCG breakers. So these 3 are going to be for the 3 Powerwall batteries. This one's doing the existing solar edge inverter above. The only thing we've found is where we've got buzz bar linking these out and your live link coming from your gateway, it doesn't actually fit into the RCBO. So what we're going to do is we're going to get Luke to go pick up a 100 amp just straight through module. So we'll take this into the top and then we'll just put a bit of 5-way buzz bar in there and that will solve that issue. So I'm just going to fill up these fly leads for the neutrals. I'll get them away in the neutral bar. And I think while I'm doing this, Reuben's just sorting out the AC isolator situation, so I'll hand you over to him.
So as you know, here at Artisan, we like to do really neat installs, and to do it, the trick is just a little bit of planning, talking through, forethought. Sometimes people like to just sort of jump in and crack on and then figure it out as they go along, but a little bit of step back. How are we going to do this? What's the best way of doing it? Talk through it. What materials will we need in order to do it? It can result in a more beautiful install. So what we're aiming to do here is to actually take all of the cables into the first Powerwall and then through from the first to the second to the third, so that you only see one set of flexi conduit going into the Powerwalls basically, and then all the cables in between are kind of invisible. For that we need some 32mm flexible conduit, we need the glands for that, and then we've got to follow the instructions about how to pass the cables through from one to another. We've got 3 AC isolators that are going to go in here. Again, for neatness, we've done a drop of trunking like this, and all of our AC isolators are going to go one on top of the other in here. The cables for the first are going to go in and out of the top, and then the cables for the second and third are going to go in and out of the side, so you won't see any cables. They'll just go down like that, and then all you'll see is one 32mm flexicon going across, with all the cables then passing through in between the power walls. And that, we think, is the neatest way of doing it in this particular case. Dilation is 32, it's pretty much bang on 32mm. This is my tool of the day today. I love this. It's like the ultimate luxury. It's basically allows you to measure the inside of holes, the outside of things, depth of things. You've got a little depth gauge there. I've had this for ages and I don't use it very much, but when I do, it comes in really handy. Tesla is, as you know, an American brand, which means that they use inches rather than millimeters, and we have to just check to make sure that we've got the right size glands, because here we do everything in millimeters. So it looks like it's an 1.25 inch gland, which is about 32mm in metric. We're going to get some 32mm flexicon to match.
So I'll just stick in the cover back on the inverter, basically where we've changed the RCBOs within the gateway. I'm just getting the set ready while the power's off, so just done my R1, R2 up to the inverter. Once Reuben's done the isolators, I'll get the R1, R2 on them, but it's all local, so it's going to be really low. And then at least all the paperwork's kind of up to date, ready. I've already got my SEDI and PFC at the meter cupboard, so we'll just fill in the readings as we go.
So at the moment, just putting away the isolators looks a little bit messy at the moment, but once it's all in through the Copex into the batteries, we can neaten it all up, put it back into the trunking. Just have this row of these. We'll put 1, 2, 3 for the batteries, which will correlate to the breakers. We're kind of just taking our time with it because I think Luke's picking up a couple bits. I'm going to drop them off, which we'll need for this Copex.
So it's going well. Guys are doing a really good job, looking pucker. And these new SCARMI isolators that we're using, we just got them to match the existing so that everything looks the same. We've never used them before, but they're actually really nice. We usually use the G-Wiz ones, but actually these SCARMI ones look pretty nice, so we might end up using them as standard. Got quite a lot of nice space inside them. They're rectangular, they feel good quality. So yeah, it's always good to learn about new materials and try and up our game each time by using something that's even better, even nicer, even easier to install. Just getting some stuff out of the van, and I just wanted to give a shout out to our latest Chocolate Hobnobs for Life channel member, Gralon R. Thank you so much for your support. It's great to have you on board. You know, our channel members really support the channel by giving a small monthly fee, and in exchange they get access to loads of exclusive behind the scenes content. For example, in the entirety of 2023 I filmed a vlog of me running the business behind the scenes, and there are about 40 episodes of that vlog for channel members. In addition to that, you get exclusive early access to our main channel videos, you get access to the members only section of our Discord, and loads of other perks. So if you want to join up as a member and support our channel and get some extra benefits from Artisan channel, there's a link below where you can click the join button next to subscribe and you can become a channel member. Thank you again to Gralon R and all of our Chocolate Hobnobs for Life channel members. So, using my special laser measuring glasses, we're just about to start fitting the stacking kit now for batteries. We've got the 3 isolators on. The guys are just doing the testing for the AC circuits to make sure that all the readings are okay, and then we can start installing the stacking kit.
Me and Reuben haven't installed a stacking kit on a Tesla Powerwall yet, so we'll just go step by step and see how it goes, and hopefully can show you. So we're going to have 2 sitting in front of this original one. You get this little jig that comes in the pack, and basically this little bit here sits inside, so you get your pilot hole in the correct position. So round here is basically where your cable entry comes into the Powerwall, and we're going to be coming through with this sort of little coupler system. So that's going to be linking through to this battery, and then in that one we'll have another one to the front one. So to make sure we get that in the right place, it says that you put this inside, and then that can't go anywhere else because there's the little bar in the bottom. So we know if we drill a pilot hole there and then open it up with a hole saw, that'll be in the right place to come through into the next chamber.
Yeah, it says you got to use a 1/4 inch, mate. That's my finger. No joking.
Jeez.
Like butter.
That went straight through.
Obviously American. This is a 35mm coupler, it says on the instructions. So what we're going to do, open it up to 32, and then we've got a step drill bit here. We'll just drill it up to 35, get that in, and then hopefully, it looks pretty simple to just put the other battery on with the frame that goes round, and we just repeat it to the last one. So Reuben drills that out and we'll get this coupler fitted. It did say 35mm in the pack, but that's actually fitting in the 32, so no need to drill it up a size. So we'll get that in. That's going to where the rear entry on the next battery is. So it'll just be linking through on all the chambers. And what I've seen in some posts, I was obviously looking to see how other people have done it. You can either take a separate feed into each battery, but that can look a bit messy, but obviously some instances you're going to have to do that. But what we've opted for is we're going to take all our feeds in a Copex into the rear battery and link through, so it's all nice and neat and you've just got one cable entry into the whole sort of stack. Second battery's in place now, and it's screwed to the coupler that's onto the first one. You got these side rails. They've got this little thin end and then this thicker end. So the thick end goes at the top, and you've got a little magnet because the top rail literally just sits on a magnet across the whole top. And then Allen key, once it's in, you just turn it, you'll hear it click, and that's it, it'll be in place. Just need to make sure these are sitting in the little grooves on the battery. one either side, tighten them, they'll click in, put the top on, and then you got some little covers that just magnet over the top of these, hide them. So once that's on, we can just repeat it, get the third one in place. It's just a case of getting our Copex on and wiring it all. This top rail just literally goes onto these 2 magnets. That's that. Got these little communications cables which literally just link between the batteries. So one will come up from the gateway, which is up here, and that usually goes to your first battery, and then on the out port you'll have one of these plugs that has a little resistor in the end. So if you're stacking multiple batteries, you need to take the one with the resistor out, and that'll go on the very last battery in the out port, and then these little wires, you'll put the plugs on the end and it will just link between, and then your resistor just moves to your last. So we'll get these made up, they can get plugged in, and then once Reuben's fed the singles through, we can terminate these 3, and we're pretty much there.
So I'm just having a quick look at my Openquote dashboard to see what latest inquiries have come in, and I thought, you know what, let me share a little update with you guys, because behind the scenes I've been working for the last 6 months or so on a new project. I've actually co-founded a new company called Openquote, and it's a software platform that basically I wanted to design to help my own business, because I was struggling with this thing of gathering all the information that we need from customers in order to produce an accurate quote, asking all the right questions to customers. I was playing phone and email tag with customers, trying to get hold of them when they were maybe at work, and then while I was not at work in the evenings they wanted to send me stuff. It was just a nightmare. So I've created Openquote, which is a platform that helps you to just gather all of the information that you need from customers in order to give them a quote. For example, this job here, our customer Tom, he went on our Openquote link on our website, and he was able to just go through step by step and provide all the pictures and videos that we needed to give him an accurate quote. In fact, we didn't even need to do a site survey at this job, because we had all the information that we needed from Openquote. So if that's of interest to your business, if you've been struggling with the same problem that I have, I'm actually now rolling it out to share it with other installers too. And there's a link below where you can sign up, give it a go, and get a little discount as one of our early adopters. So happy to share that with you.
Alright, so we've got the cables through the Copex, pulled them through to each individual battery and just connecting them through. But you get these little com looms that we've pulled through as well. But yeah, seems alright.
Okay, so I've just finished this install, so all we've got to do now is commission it. So we're now going to take you through the process of commissioning the Tesla Powerwall.
I'm skinny club this week. I'm fasting, intermittent fasting. Yesterday was Macca's. I've not had lunch today, so it's going to be... I've not had anything since our Macca's yesterday. So my next meal's going to be dinner tonight, so that'll be like 36 hours, fine.
You've not eaten since McDonald's?
No. I feel alright. Okay, you kind of get used to it.
I've had 17 bourbons and
Yay! We've got 3.
So it is, yeah, you just turn them on and they sync.
So we're just in the commissioning process. We have scanned the QR code on the gateway. In the Tesla One app, which is the Tesla installer app, you do have to be an official approved Tesla installer to do these. Then the system comes up and we go into system settings and scan for devices, and it's brought up the extra 2 Powerwalls that we've added. So that's the first step, which is good. If we go on metering as well, we can see each Powerwall, what it's doing. Then if we go to the next step, which is settings, we need to go to the grid code. And because we're adding Powerwalls and we've done a G99 application for this, we need to change the export limit. Oh, import and export limits. There we go. So import and export limits. Site export limit, 11 kilowatts. So it's already been set. So we go to done. Then solar installation type, solar panel. That's exactly the same as it was. Right, so we've gone through all the steps of the commissioning process, and we get to the funnest part, which is to do the backup test. To do that, it's very simple. You choose whole home backup. You let the customer know that they may experience a slight intermission in power for a few milliseconds, or particularly if they're overloaded, but the house is not using much power at the moment. So we can click begin backup test. And There we go. The lights didn't even flicker. We're off grid. All Powerwalls are operational. Powering home loads. Have the homeowner turn on something they expect to be backed up, then verify the change in power flow above. Okay, so if we do boost on the eddy, boosting. Okay, so we should see the load jump up now. 0.7, 0.8. Yeah, it's ramping up now, so that's good. So we can click got it. Solar power backup loads. Waiting for solar. Solar. If solar is not expected, tap the button below. Solar's not expected at the moment. We turn it off, but we can turn it back on now. And the clever thing about Tesla Powerwall is that it simulates the frequency of the grid, keep the inverter going, so that the solar will actually keep generating even in a grid outage, which is amazing. So that's clicking now, and we can see we've got 0.8 kilowatts or 800 watts coming in from the solar. So we've got solar and we're off grid. So we basically got an entire sustainable off grid house. And then we go on grid, we click reconnect to grid. And that's it. Backup test complete. We're back on grid and we didn't notice any difference. What an amazing system. So in the Tesla installer app, we just need to add the photos that they request so that we can sign off on the job. So that's the system installed, up and running and fully commissioned. But I promised you that I'd share with you the clever software our customer has used. So let's head into the kitchen and talk to Tom. This is our customer Tom, and he has developed some very clever software to manage this battery storage system to get the most out of it. So we're going to talk a little bit about different levels of battery management, because I appreciate that not everyone's able to write their own software to manage their batteries, but the way that you manage your battery system can make a massive difference to the benefits that you get from it. So Tom's going to tell us a little bit more about what he's designed.
So to put it in simple terms, it works out the best way to use the battery capacity. So that might be exporting to the grid, it might be charging overnight, it might be charging from surplus solar during the day. It does this by getting a whole series of different forecasts. So there's one forecast for how much electricity we're going to use. There's another forecast which we get from Solcast, which is how much solar PV we're going to generate during the day. Then we combine that with the electricity rate information that we get from my electricity supplier, which is Octopus. Once we've got how much we're going to generate, how much we're going to use, how much it's going to cost to import and export at any time of the day, then it can generate a plan for exactly when to charge, when to discharge, either to discharge to the house or discharge to the grid to make the most out of the battery.
Wow, that's really clever. So it even takes into consideration the weather forecast. I don't know.
Yeah, weather forecasts, as everybody knows, are a little bit dodgy. So it actually takes into account the range of forecasts. So it's looking at the sort of worst likely case and working out whether the battery is going to go flat. And when it's looking at how much headroom is the battery got to handle all the possible solar that might come in, it looks at the higher percentiles.
That's awesome. So you're on Octopus Flux at the moment, is that right?
At the moment, yes. So this is just coming into spring. So we've swapped to being a net exporter of electricity because we've got about 8 kilowatts of solar panels on the roof. During the winter, we're a net importer because we get not much at all off the solar. And in that case, it's better to be on the agile tariff, where the price changes every half an hour. And that's really where this comes into its own, where it can decide, I'm going to charge at 1:30 in the morning, skip it for a couple of hours, then have a big charge at, say, 3:00 in the morning. That's also where you can get big changes in the export price as well. So especially over the winter where there's not much solar from all of the big solar farms around the country, you can get times on the grid where there's a bit of a shortage of electricity. And the National Grid have this demand flexibility service where they can basically raise a big flag and say, we need to reduce the load on the grid, or we need another extra bit of generation on the grid. And you can get paid quite a lot extra for doing that. So, for example, over the last winter, one of the slots we were involved in, they were paying us £4 a kilowatt hour. When you compare that to the 15p a kilowatt hour we were importing to charge the battery the night before, that's quite a big margin.
So now with your 40.5 kilowatt hours of battery storage, if you could dump that all to the grid at £4 per kilowatt hour, that's a serious amount of payment that you would be receiving.
Yeah, but there's also the sort of green factor in there.
Yeah.
When the price spikes, the grid is using lots of dirty gas, or potentially even a little bit of coal to top up the grid.
Yeah.
So if you can reduce that by a little bit, you're actually shaving off the really carbon-intensive parts of the grid.
That's amazing. So for you, obviously, you're pretty clever. You've designed a system that really is fine-tuned. But if we sort of scale it back a bit to someone who's maybe not so clever with IT and programming and things, what can they do to get the best out of their battery system, would you say?
I think the first thing is to be conscious of which tariff you're on. Plenty of energy companies will put you on a seg tariff that gives you 4p a kilowatt hour or something pretty horrible like that. If you shop around for your export tariffs, you can get ones that are up at 15p quite easily, that are just constant at 15p.
Yeah.
If you've got a battery that you can put in schedule into, so you can say charge at this time period every day and discharge at this time period every day, then there's more advanced tariffs like Octopus Flux, where the price changes, but in a really predictable, scheduled way. So you can just preset your battery to charge here and discharge there. And that will, without all the complexity of what I've done, give you quite good gains.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And there will be a link below to Octopus. We do recommend them regularly to our customers, but I'll share Tom's referral link so that you can get £50 credit, and he'll get £50 credit too if you sign up for Octopus, as a little thank you for him sharing in our video today. So let's do a little bit more of a deep dive then into what you've created, like how does it work? What's the backbone? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe show us.
So the backbone of the system is an open source project called Home Assistant. Mm-hmm. In my case, this is running on a PC in the office in the front, but actually it can run on a really small, cheap computer. So this is a Raspberry Pi. These you can get for about 20 or 30 pounds, and that's actually powerful enough to run all the automation that I've got. And because it's based on the kind of technology that goes into things like mobile phones, it consumes almost no electricity. So it's really efficient from that point of view. There's lots of plugins for Home Assistant, for Octopus, for Solcast, where I get my solar forecasting from. And it's good for doing simple automations. So, for example, when I walk into a room and the burglar alarm detects that there's motion, switch the lights on. It's not very good at doing really, really complex planning into the future. So there's another program called App Daemon, which plugs into the side, which allows me to write a really complex program that does all the scheduling and planning ahead of all of the battery and other appliances around that, like hot water heaters, dishwashers. Because I'm using that through Home Assistant, I don't have to worry about interfacing to all of these different devices. Home Assistant, because it's acting as this hub for all of those devices, gives me easy access to all of that information.
That is really next level stuff. But I guess it's the way everything's heading, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's slowly getting there. There's been a lot of hype around the Internet of Things.
Yeah.
And at the moment, a lot of these companies are creating their little vertically integrated, really small ecosystems. But the future and the real benefit from IoT is when all of these devices actually talk to each other. I think a lot of these companies need to break away from their lock-in vertical mindset and start doing open APIs that everybody can start writing to and doing this stuff with. It's important for these manufacturers to realize they don't have to do all of the pieces of the puzzle. If they just provide that open API, the open source community, people like me, people like all the Home Assistant developers, will pick that up, will use it, and actually produce stuff that is usable for the masses.
Yeah, and make these products, which are great, even better by the way that we can use them flexibly. Cool. Well, let's jump in then and have a little look at your interface.
So this is the battery plan for today.
Yep.
And you can see we're going to do a little bit of charging off the solar from 9 o'clock to 11, doing things like discharging to the grid later on during the day. Between 4 and 7 o'clock, that's when the electricity prices really spike.
Okay.
It's also when the grid becomes the dirtiest in terms of carbon intensity.
Everyone gets home and puts the kettle on, basically.
Exactly. So by exporting there, we're maximising the environmental benefit, but also maximising the return on the investment that we've got.
Yeah.
So with the extra capacity from the extra 2 Powerwalls we've now got, we're now able to export 31 kilowatt hours today.
So what's this little screen then, and how does this play into things?
So obviously there's a smartphone app and an iPad app for it, and that's great.
So this is Home Assistant app, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the Home Assistant app.
Yep.
But sometimes you just want something that's a bit more glanceable. So I bought this display. It's an NS panel, but I then redid all the software that's on it. So I then designed this interface. We've got a gauge there which shows us how much solar we're doing. It's a bit cloudy at the moment, so we're getting probably 900 watts off the solar. So on the right hand side we've got a battery gauge. You can see we're pretty much full, and because we're just about generating all the electricity we need, the battery isn't charging or discharging at the moment.
Yeah, because your import price your import price overnight is it 15?
Yeah, about 15p.
P for that cheap segment, and then your export price on Octopus
Peak
Flux
time will be 25p.
So you're making 10p for every one of those kilowatt hours that you have stored, basically, for one day. And if you can do that every day, that's £4 a day just for exporting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few other functions it does as well. So, for example, you can swipe across and get the current weather forecast. On the last screen, there's various warnings that can come up. Those can be anything from you've left a light on to, by the way, your commute to work is now 20 minutes longer because of traffic.
Oh, that's handy. But I just think it's so cool, leveraging the power of technology to make our life easier and, help the environment. It's fantastic, the things that are possible now.
I'll be putting all of that code together with the Home Assistant automations that go with it, and the code for that display on GitHub, so that anybody that's interested can download it and start playing with it.
That's really kind. That's amazing. So there you go. If you're interested, there'll be a link below where you can find it on GitHub and have a play around with it yourself to make the best use of your battery system too. Thank you, Tom. It's been fascinating, and it's been a pleasure to work for you. We've enjoyed installing those extra Powerwalls for you.
Thanks for the battery upgrade. It's going to make a big difference.
Good. Yeah, well, I can tell it will, because you're really going to be using it to the full, which is fantastic to see. Really appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks.
So that's it. A powerful, smart battery system installed, up and running. 40.5 kilowatt hours of battery storage capacity with these 3 Tesla Powerwall 2s. Total export capacity of 15 kilowatts, although here it's limited to 11 because of the DNO restriction that they've put in. But it's allowing our customer to really leverage his solar energy and the cheap import tariffs to reduce his carbon footprint, reduce his energy costs, and take control of his power. This system will even run his entire house in backup mode for a long time. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you're a customer who's looking for a system like this, maybe you've got a Tesla Powerwall and you'd like to add some more, or maybe you'd like a brand new system installed, feel free to get in touch. We've got the interactive quotation tool that I spoke about earlier. You can follow the link below to give us all the information that we need in order to provide you with a quote. And if you have enjoyed this video, why not settle in, grab a cup of tea and watch these 2 videos. The video up here is called 10 Things You Need to Know Before You Get Battery Storage Installed, and this one is 10 Things You Need to Know Before You Get Solar Installed. Hopefully you'll watch them and learn a lot, but either way, thanks for watching and we'll see you again.